Welcome to another edition of the Inked Up Runner. This is Jason, and I am here with Amy Hamilton. And Amy is actually on the East Coast with us. She is out of Virginia, right?
Virginia.
Virginia, an area that I travel to a lot because I run all the Yeti races, and you know, it's such a great area. That area is one of my favorite areas to go to because it's so peaceful and it seems so quiet there. Is it always that quiet there?
Yeah, I mean, probably compared to most places, yeah, it's quiet and friendly, you
Quiet
know?
and friendly. It's all everybody there is so nice. It's just like it's
Yeah.
crazy how nice everybody is.
Mhm.
So you know, just to kind of get started, talk a little bit about how you know, because you've done some great things. You know, I mean, you know, she what everybody knows that my Achilles heel is the Yeti 100, and I was running the Yeti 100 this past year, and I keep seeing this lady just go. She flies by, right? And she's always got this huge smile on her face, and I'm always like, "Great job!" And she probably didn't even hear me because she's running so fast, and she just flies by. And I saw her again, and I'm like, I keep thinking to myself, "There's nobody else I see with her. She has to be in first place." And then lo and behold, you know, I end up DNFing, and then I was like, who I was talking to a friend, and they were like, yeah, this lady just torched this course and won the whole thing. And I was like, yeah, it was the one that kept running by me really fast. I was like, yeah. So she actually won over. She was the overall winner at the Yeti 100 this past year. So that's kind of some big stuff there.
Yeah.
Um, but did you, you know, where did it start? I mean, did you come out of the gate winning races, or what did your running journey look like?
I wouldn't say, I did road running for a long time. I played field hockey and lacrosse in college, and when that ended, I kind of picked up running. Just really, I wanted to do a marathon. And I always tell people, it's funny, my journey, because my first marathon time was a 4:08. I knew nothing about training. I pulled off a plan off the computer, and I have 3 children, so I think running was something easy to run pregnant, run in and out of kids. But then I really started to work at, like the half marathon distance, and my speed really improved. And obviously, I learned a little bit more about training along the way. And then I worked really hard at the marathon. I wanted to qualify for Boston. So Boston was one of my best marathon times, and I put in a 2:57. So I always tell people, sometimes it's just learning, it's a process. I love to run. It's something I'm passionate about. And, I was encouraged from people in the area that I should try trail running. And so in 2017, that 50 miles was my first. Mountain Masochist was my first 50 miler, which I'm not sure why I picked that to be my first 50, but, and I really, ever since then, I've kind of fallen in love with the trails. I would say, obviously being a road runner, I it's more natural for me to do maybe non-technical trails. That is really more just due to my schedule and my lifestyle. Mom of 3, it's harder for me to get on technical terrain. Not that I don't love it. I think it's awesome. I love to be out there, but I just don't have I'm not on it a lot. So the Creeper Trail is obviously, I've lived in Abingdon, I guess, almost 3 years now. So, and in the area in Southwest Virginia for about 16, 17 years. So that is it's the place that I do a lot of my long runs. So the Yeti was something that I really wanted to work hard to do well there. And I failed the year before in the rain. I don't know if you were there. So it doesn't come easy. I've had some successful trail runs. I did the Dan 50 in 2019, I think, and I put that under 7 hours. I did the 50K, put that under 4 hours on the, that was, I guess, last year. So I've done some fast um, trail runs, but the 100 was something that I didn't have figured out. You probably know I've had four DNFs at the 100-mile distance. And I think for me, I was really training hard. Times were good. Training runs I felt were successful. And I would cruise through the 50 and be great. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would just kind of fall apart. Really
Mm-hmm.
cognitively, it could be something as simple as turning an ankle and my whole body wanted to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
But in hindsight, what I learned is I was not doing the in race nutrition properly. So I finally got a coach last year, a little bit, I guess it was in December of 2020. And so, we worked on that every long run. And so that's really, I just think everything kind of came together for the Yeti.
So,
um,
so let me unpack a little bit because you just said like a ton of stuff.
yeah.
So the rainy year of the
Yeah.
Yeti, what was it that took you down?
I stepped in a hole. I'm sure, were you there that year?
Yes, I
You,
was. I was.
okay, so it was underwater before we ever started.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was between mile 55 and 60. I stepped in a hole. It was deeper than I thought, turned an ankle, knee kind of bothered, ankle bothered. I mean, I kind of gimped in. I guess it was at the 60-mile mark, whatever that would have been. I was on the second out and back.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I picked up my first pacer, and I got to a point where I just couldn't walk. So,
Yeah.
I ended up turning it around and dropped at 67. So,
Yeah. And that was tough. And that was tough, right? Because you had already ran. You're
yeah,
very similar to me. You had already ran through the worst part of it, right? And
yes,
so, like in your head, you're probably thinking, well, I've got this thing licked. I mean, I already ran through 12 hours of torrential rainfall, right? I mean, it
yes,
was, I think if you were not there, it's hard to truly imagine what we are talking about, but it was truly
absolutely. Yeah.
awful. It was awful. It
It was
was just
awful.
it was awful. I mean, there's no way around it. And so, like, I made it to I deal with cystitis, and
Mhm.
I had um not hydrated well
Okay.
enough because of the rain, right? Because you don't
Yes.
feel like you need to drink as much
Yeah.
because you're not hot, right? Because it's not cold. I mean, it's cooler, it's not hot, it's a different. And so I tapped out at, what was it, mile 70 at Alvarado. I had to have my people come and get me up there because I got really, really sick and couldn't finish
Yeah.
on.
Oh. Well, you would laugh. I don't think I did a single gel that's how much lack of knowledge. I mean, I laugh at that now, but that's really, I had no rhyme or reason. I probably would not drink the first 2 hours. I didn't have that part down at all. So it's not surprising that, I'd had all these failed hundreds, but it is hard to go that far and feel decent, and
Hmm.
then just kind of fall apart. So, um, yeah.
That's definitely, it's definitely frustrating. So you said
Yeah.
you got a coach and you started dialing in that nutrition.
Yeah.
So what was it that you did that changed for you with the nutrition? Did you were you a, because like I just interviewed Peter Mortimer the guy who won the Hurt 100, and I mean, he's got far too many achievements to mention, right? And
Yeah.
so he had cut off like 24 hours in between his 200 miler finishes. It's even long to say it, right? And
Yeah.
and I was like, how did you cut a full day off your time? He's like, well, I changed my diet. And then he went on to talk about how he completely changed how he ate. But
Yeah.
like, what did you do differently with your nutrition that allowed you to dial in such a great performance?
Yeah. I've always had good, out as far as outside of running. Um, I've always had a pretty good diet. So that hasn't been my problem. But in race nutrition, really dialing in, having a certain amount of calories an hour, that has been huge. So 250 calories is what I aim for. And sometimes it's just in liquid. I do the goo octane. So I think it's having that slow drip of, calories and being consistent with that. And usually 16 ounces of fluid an hour, obviously more if it's really, really hot. So on long runs, I would pack and carry nutrition and practice that. And I will say, I mean, it was really hard I mean, I can remember doing long runs. I'm sure you can relate. The first hour is pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
second hour is all right, but you get into that third hour and you just feel like you're dragging. Once I started practicing the nutrition on the long runs, I mean, I felt like I could just get into this cruising pace. I'm like, I can't believe what a difference it made. So, after we practiced that and just in training, I had a 100K that I'd practiced and then the 50K. So I had two races before the Yeti to really see it work. And the difference. Just my mind is clearer. And you do have to train your stomach. I think that's the hardest thing to explain to people is you can't like not have a plan and then go to a race and think you're just I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna work. I do think you have to prepare your gut for that. But that has just made a world of difference for me in my racing.
Wow, yeah, and I think it's interesting because you can actually overhydrate. I learned that at last year's where I overhydrated
Yeah.
and um, ended up having to pull out because I got so sick from overhydrating.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah,
hard. It's
it
a
it it it,
balance.
it really is because I rolled
Mhm.
in again, like you said, I got into the 50-mile mark, but the wheels had started falling off earlier. I just was missing the signs for
Yeah.
what was going on. And then
Yeah.
I got past 50 and I started getting so sick, I couldn't keep anything down. And by the time I got the white top, I was so disoriented and not good that I
Yeah.
told my crew, I'm like, I can't do it. And I had no one to pace me. So like it was all, it was either all or nothing. And I
Right.
didn't trust myself running down that mountain in
Yeah.
the middle of the night. I
Yeah.
mean, you
That's
know,
tough. Yeah.
and I think with your time, you probably barely run at night. So I mean, it probably don't even affect you, but
That's what I kept saying. I need to get down that mountain before it gets dark because it is more rooty and rocky up on that end. So yeah, and plus your quads. It's just a balance on that course. You can if you blow your quads that first time down, the second time down is, you have to be careful. It's a balancing act for sure. It's tricky. I think the Yeti is tricky in a certain way. People think, oh, it's probably easy, but after running the 50K, it's a marathon, right? So you
mhm.
just hammer down the hill. Well, you can't do that in the 100.
No, no, and
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and Jason tells you, you can either chase, you can chase your dreams and roll the dice, or play conservative and see what's going to happen. Because, like,
Yeah.
and I think that's the thing with these flat courses is,
Mhm.
you use the same muscles over and over again, repetitively, which is
Yeah.
different than, say, what I did this past yesterday at
Yeah.
Savage Golf, where I mean, there were sections where I'm literally like climbing over rocks and, like, going up these steep inclines, and at the Yeti, it's mainly just flat. And so, it's definitely different kind of running too, but I think it's interesting talking about training your body. Like, how long did it take you to adjust to eating like that before you got it?
Yeah. I would say probably 4 or 5 long runs. First 2 or 3 long runs were rough. My stomach didn't feel good. Like it was really hard. And I kept wanting to do less calories. I'm like, well, maybe I can get away with like 150 or 125. But once I just stayed with the plan. I've got it. And I think too, when it's cold, I would do some gels. So you have to learn that too. I mean, after being out in Arizona in the heat, gels don't really feel good when it's
Mm.
hot. So you have to kind of learn that. But it was for me being consistent with the fluid and the 250 calories an hour, that it takes time. It takes practice. But once you do it, I mean, it just becomes habit. I had a long run today. Sundays are usually a long run day. So and Yeti, I probably did mostly all fluids. I did some gels, on that first, stint down to Damascus when it was a little cold. But after that, I didn't really do a ton of food. So I think you just kind of have to play with that and practice it. I mean, it's like anything else.
Sure. And not everybody can do the solid food. Like, I can do solid
Yeah.
food really well.
Yes.
I can eat anything, like, at these races, and it has
Yeah.
literally zero effect
That's awesome.
on me. So I'm lucky, but not everybody can do that. And
No.
a lot of the really, really fast folks, like, like
Mhm.
you, for example,
Mhm.
rely on those gels and stuff because they're quick and easy, right? You can just pull it
Yes.
out, put
Yes.
it in, and go without it truly affecting, like, in and out of aid stations and
Yes.
having to stop. And because let's face it, when you're running to place,
Yes.
every minute, every second truly counts.
House. That's right.
So,
Exactly.
which makes a huge difference. So I guess I noticed you've ran JFK a few times.
3 times. Yeah. Yeah. 3 times. And I've clipped off a little bit each time. I will say, obviously this past year was the first time that I did it, with our nutrition plan. I was hoping to go under 8. And, I always like to share because I think sometimes we hear about all the good stuff that happens, right? But in hindsight, I probably could have used another 4 weeks after my 100. Everything went great, but when I hit about mile 30, I could not keep that pace on the canal towpath. And for me, that's where my strength is. But I still did well, and I would attribute that to taking in calories. That AT section, I think all 3 times I've done it, I usually am right at 2 hours and 50 minutes. So that kind of shows you that's definitely not my strong suit. So I know that I've got to really hammer in the canal towpath part. If I can hold like 7:30s there, that's where I'm going to make up the time. So even though it was a really successful one this past year, I probably could have used another 4 weeks out from the from the 100. But you already sign up for it. I think that's the joy of this, is that I look at myself as I'm just a normal person. I'm busy. I'm a mom. I have all these different hats, but what an opportunity to go race. If I'm
Mhm.
healthy and I can do it, I feel like that's such a blessing. So yeah, and I guess the second year I did JFK, I actually talked to Patrick Reagan, is who my coach is. I called him on the way home from that race. I said, okay, I've got to figure this out. So it's been wonderful. It's changed my training, really. I just feel better. I don't have all these dragging long runs anymore.
Well, and I think you hit on something important. I think a lot of us, and a friend of mine really drove it home to me. My friend Will got on to me. I don't know. It's several months ago. I didn't want to get out and run, right? And
Yeah.
I was really not feeling it. And he had suffered a really bad fall at a race and had injured himself, and he couldn't run. And I was complaining about not wanting to run. And he's like, "You just need to shut up." He goes, "And go run." He said, "I wish I could run right now." And he
Yeah.
said, "There are people everywhere that wants to run and can't run." And he's like, "You're fortunate enough and healthy enough to be able to go do it.
Yeah.
Count your blessings that you can do that and just get out and do it." Right.
Yes. Yes. I think for me, I think that's kind of what I always want people to get about my running journey is I went through a pretty serious health ordeal between running Boston and New York. I contracted a parasitic infection, and it took. I mean, I ended up fracturing a hip. Um, I had to do, change my diet. I essentially had a lot of autoimmune issues, had, candida overgrowth, all these other things stemming from that. And it took forever to find a functional doctor that worked with UVA to figure out what was wrong. But, that's the first time in my life that, I mean, I was sidelined. Like I couldn't run. And honestly, I didn't know if I would run again. I mean, that's kind of where I was. It took me a long time to heal the gut. Um, so, to be back running, I feel like I'm grateful every day I get to train, and that's what I want to be a light for others. Is I think anybody can do it. I don't
Mhm.
look at myself as like this magical person that has it all together. It's just hard work and it's being consistent, and being grateful, and I think that's why the trails for me, they're just so healing, like you can
Mhm.
get out there and I don't know, whatever's gone bad that day, just the beauty of being on trails, it makes it all better, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I totally
Yeah.
agree. It was just
Yeah.
like, yesterday there was the race I ran. It's a really tough marathon. It's called the Savage Gulf Marathon, and it's a 25K, and it's in Middle Tennessee. It's literally like right middle to eastern side, and it's a very tough race. And right before you finish, you have this humongous climb, and I mean it's like it's pretty steep. And I
Mhm.
remember going up the climb, and I remember just struggling so bad going up it. But then I remember I stopped a couple of times to like compose myself because I was not ready to run the race. But I like just stopped, and I like just looked around, and there was like, you hear the water running and the trees and stuff. And I'm like, this is not easy right now. And it's not the best situation for me from a physicality
Yeah.
standpoint, but where else would I rather be right now? In such a beautiful spot with all this around me. And it's like, not everybody gets to go out and do this kind of stuff. And it was just like so awesome. And I made it up that hill. It took a long time, but I made it up the hill, and got to finish the race. But just thinking about just being out there, and you are right. It's very healing and peaceful and quiet. And it's just,
Yeah.
it's just such a wonderful place to be.
Yes.
So, so are you, I guess, are you going to keep going back to JFK? Do you get underneath 8 hours?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, obviously, I work with Patrick to kind of come up with a plan, and I don't know what it'll look like this year because I can't wait to do another 100. That's probably going to come late in the fall, but I'm really in 2022. I'm really diversifying. I'm trying things that are different, maybe a little bit harder for
Mhm.
Amy. So, like I did Black Canyon, which I've never dealt with heat exhaustion, and I learned
How was
how to
that?
trooper through that. It was tough, obviously I felt really well prepared. I drove to Damascus. I did a ton of stuff on the AT. Did some treadmill hiking just to get, obviously you've got to practice elevation. That's a very different race. Which was difficult because that was in our winter here, which you know what our winter was like. So it
Mm-hmm.
was either raining, snowing, icy, pretty much through the winter before going to Black Canyon. So, and they had record highs there that day. I think we hit in the mid 80s. So, knew it was going to be hot, had prepared to do all the stuff, ice on the neck, the bandana. But there was that middle section, I guess, when you leave kind of the halfway mark, ran out of water and fuel, and it was probably a little over 2 miles short of an aid station. Was hot but cold. My stomach kind of went sour. But you know what? At that point, I just said, okay, you can't worry about time goals anymore. You gotta finish this thing, And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the beauty of, again, having the calories and being consistent, as well as you can in that race. That's how you can kind of come back. That's how, for me, it was really like, I got to keep a strong mindset, and, it's going to be a lot longer than what I thought, but I did okay. And I've really never had to like bring my stomach back or deal with heat exhaustion. So that was new for me, but to me, I look at that as a win, right? All these experiences, that's going to make me stronger. It's going to make me better. I think I finished in 13 and a half hours. I was hoping to aim around 10 and a half. So way off the goal, but it's a finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, it gave me a little taste. Like, for me, I would love to do Western states, right? Who wouldn't?
Right.
So, it was kind of like a mini example of that. I mean, it's kind of similar, the layout of the course. And obviously it's more technical than what I'm used to, but I think it's important to challenge ourselves. And again, to have the opportunity in February to run in Arizona. I mean, that's amazing, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's not just any race either. I mean, it's
Oh,
Black Canyon, right?
uh,
That's a big one.
yes. Yes.
I mean,
So,
it's a very, very big race. A lot of the super elite people get out to that one,
yeah.
because it's a Western States qualifier if you win, I believe,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So if you finish, that's qualifying. So it's another ticket,
It's another ticket.
another chance to get drawn, I guess. Yeah.
So, you mentioned another 100. Are you still looking at them, or do you just
Yeah, I think Brazos Bend. I think that's the first weekend in December in Texas. So that's a flat, fast course. That's kind of, I think that's where I'm going to land for the 100. If all goes well, in this next block, which I've got Mad City on the calendar, which is April 23rd. Now, that is, you can work at your qualifying times for the 100K. I think it's 840, below 840 for the female. But it is I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a road, like a loop course. It's really to work on speed. Again, it's going to challenge me. There's some people on our team that Patrick coaches, and it's fast, so it's really to work on your speed. And I think it'll be neat just to run with that kind of competition. I think that'll be excellent for me. So I still like working at the speed. So I'm going to see how I can do at the 100K out there. And then I'll probably come back and just do some smaller races, to prepare for the 100. But really just trying to challenge myself this year, do some different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, getting out to Texas, that's a different area. I mean, it's a
Yes,
different
yes,
anytime you move to different parts of the country, you deal with the different terrain and the environment like you dealt with Arizona, right?
right.
Um, you know, so so that one in Texas, I've heard of that one before. And you said it's mainly like, you said it's mainly flat, but it's on trail though, right?
Yes, it's on trail. Yeah.
So is it kind of I don't want to say deserty, or is it more like what's
It's like a looped course, and I don't think it's real technical, kind of more dirt. Yeah, but flat. And I think it was really hot this past year for them that
I
time of year.
gotcha.
Yeah. So
Have you ever thought about doing Tunnel Hill?
that is on my radar. Yes. Yes. I think that would be a neat one to do. I kind of have a unique situation. I try to do it when my kids have their weekend with their dad. So travel sometimes is tough for me, but that is definitely on my radar when that weekend opens up.
Oh, I
Yeah.
understand. I understand
Yeah.
that. I get it. I've got a bunch. I got several kids myself, but mine are finally they're
Oh,
almost all grown. I've got two left at 17. So,
oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
They still need you at that
oh
age, don't they?
yeah,
It's a
you just
different type of need.
right. It's just you're not having to chauffeur them around as much,
Yes.
so, but
Yes.
definitely, and I think that's a challenge in itself is,
Mm,
you know, trying to finagle your schedule to get that done. And I think that's a testament to how you can be a mom and still, and still compete at the level you compete at. Because like you mentioned earlier, getting to some of these places like running that technical stuff. I mean, people would think, well, look at where you're at. It should be easy to get out and do technical stuff, but
yes.
it's not. I mean, I
No.
know where you are, and it's not a quick drive to really get to super technical stuff. I mean,
No.
what would be the closest? It'd be the AT, wouldn't it?
Probably the AT, so 20-25 minute drive to
Sure,
Damascus Park, you know how that is. And then
yeah,
it's just like, your car's got to be your aid station. So you've got to make sure, okay, where's water? Where can I fill up? It's just a lot of planning. I mean, you know
sure.
that. It turns
Oh,
into a
absolutely.
7-hour day. And, you get up as early as you can. But yeah, when you've got kids in life, it makes it tough.
Sure. I mean, it's just like, it's just like here, most of the really good technical trails from where I'm at, and I'm like literally in a very huge metropolitan area, is
Mhm.
almost 45 minutes to an hour away from me. Yeah. And so, like, if you want to, like, so for the race that I just did, for me to really get good solid training, I would have needed to probably have driven several ways, because treadmill hiking only does so much for you.
Yeah.
Until you get out on some of these super technical trails, especially
Yeah.
like the one that I just did yesterday, you can't replicate that on a treadmill.
No.
Getting the footing, getting
Yeah.
understanding how to maneuver through the rocks. Like the guy that won yesterday,
Yeah.
he 4 hours and 6 minutes. It
Oh
was
my gosh. I
it was
can't imagine.
crazy. It was crazy, and it was a marathon, right? But I mean, it was just like he had to float over some of that stuff to get through it that quick.
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean,
that
I
is
I can't
insane.
I can't fathom it, right? Because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm like you, I like the flat stuff.
Yeah.
It's more
I know.
fun.
That's why I like to try to go and do some of these mountain ones because it is, but it is. You have to learn to run over rocks, right? Like your gait changes, things. That's when you can get injured. If you've
Hmm.
got to be prepared for that. It's a different muscle group.
Sure.
Yeah. So I get that.
So
Wow.
it was just like yesterday. My whole thought process was I walked a lot of sections that I probably would not have walked if I didn't
Yeah.
have 7 trails in 2 weeks.
Yes.
But 7 trails is like my A race for the entire year. And so like for me, I could have easily went out there, screwed up my ankle, and then not have been able to go and be at 7 trails in 2 weeks. And it's just like there were sections, and I'm like, should I run right now? I'm like, is it really worth it? Because it's not going to make that big of a difference.
No. No.
No, but
But
so
you gained mental toughness by finishing yesterday. I think that's incredible. I mean, there's not much of the population that's going to do that.
no, and
I think that's what's so cool. Is like, I mean, anybody, you set your mind to something, right? And
Mhm.
that's what is incredible to me to see is even at Yeti, I love it because it's out and back, and I loved seeing people. I didn't really know where I was on the way to Abingdon until we kind of turned around, and I'm like, oh, I guess there's nobody in front, but I loved high fiving and seeing everybody. But I went out the next morning at the 20, it was like 24, it might have been 26 hour. To me, that's just as incredible. I mean, think about that, out for the night and then the sun comes up again. Like, to me, that's just as amazing. That takes a lot.
Mhm.
So I think, and imagine what that does for people. Like, it just, what a confidence builder. I mean, it shows you that anybody's capable of anything.
Oh, it really does. And I think you hit on something too, is, even more than the course, but it's just the atmosphere of the Yeti race, right? It's just like, how many race directors gives as much love to the person that comes in last as the
Yes,
person that comes in first, right? I mean,
yes,
hell,
yes.
you could argue that there's more videos of the person that comes in last place than the
Yeah.
person in first place, because it's like you talked about that perseverance, right? Of sticking it out and sticking it through the hard times and running, and it's what, a 30-hour cutoff, right? So being
Yep.
out there for almost 30 hours and then coming in, and it's not just two people sitting there like with a megaphone and like clapping.
No.
No, it's like a flipping party, right? There's like
Yes.
people everywhere. Where can you get that atmosphere at a race? And it's like that at all of his races, right?
I know. And obviously I've done a lot of different races, but there is something special about the Yeti. I mean, Jason, he hugs every single finisher. I mean, he is, I think that's truly why the Yeti races will always be special. And that's why I do them. And if I'm around and I can get into the registration, I'll do it because they're incredible. I mean, it's just, he loves people. And I think more than anything, what I love about ultra running is, road running is wonderful, and not to take away from that, but there is a different feeling at ultras. You know, People have a story. Everybody out there has a story. And I think there's so much value in learning mental toughness. You can be the fastest, right? But truly, there is something about overcoming, like, your mind and your
Mhm.
mindset. And everybody needs that in this world. And it's just, he supports everyone. I love that about his races. Jason is an incredible person. And I've gotten to know him just doing so many of them, and it's very special. Special race. I would encourage anyone to do a Yeti race.
Oh, absolutely. And I my first 50 miler was the damn Yeti, but I met him. I didn't really meet him. I was the first Jason Green race was the one that he used to do with the Yeti Nightmare. And so that was when I first saw him and was like, I saw his energy and stuff. And so I was asking a friend, I'm like, who is this Jason Green guy? And there was like, man, he runs the Yeti races. And they're like, if you've not ran a Yeti race, like one of his races, you've got to run a Yeti race. And so I did a 50K here locally in Tennessee called Yamacraw, which is a great race. That's actually probably close to you. And then I picked my 50 miler for the damn Yeti. And
Mhm.
I'm telling you, like, I don't know, like, it was literally the perfect experience, the perfect day. Like, everybody was so nice. And it was just like everybody was so encouraging. And I had never been at a race before where everybody was just so nice and everybody was built to help everybody succeed, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And
For
it's just awesome. So
sure.
is there an actual marathon there for the Yeti? I saw that on your ultra sign up.
Oh, on mine? I
It
don't
says a Yeti
know.
Spaghetti Marathon, June 4th.
Oh, I tell you what that is he's going to allow, this is new this year. I think you can do a Boston qualifier in the damn 50. Like if you're running the 50 or the 50K, you can qualify. They're going to qualify, they're going to time the marathon time, which I think is pretty cool. That's
Wow, that's
smart.
awesome.
I know. You can take it all out at one day, right?
I was confused
So,
because I noticed it was the same day
yeah,
as the
yeah,
other one, and I was like, "What is
yeah.
that?"
I know. When you said that, I'm like, huh, wait, am I doing marathon? Yeah, and I'm hoping I can do it. Depending on if how Mad City goes, it's kind of going to be tight. But I signed up obviously for the, I mean, you know how that is. You better sign up as soon as it opens, or
Right,
there's no chance. You can't
right.
kind of decide. But yeah, so that's new this year. I think that's really cool that he's doing that. You know?
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
It's great. And like in like I normally sign up for the damn Yeti, but
yeah,
because I'd signed up for 7 trails, I was
yeah,
like, they're kind of close together.
yeah.
And I'd already agreed to help crew a friend at Hellbender in
Oh,
May. And
wow.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and Hellbender's a race where you got to have somebody. That's not really a solo style race. I mean,
No,
it's brutal.
I've heard that's a brutal one. Yeah.
It's very, very tough.
Yeah.
So I guess so just to kind of wrap up with you a little bit, what you got the Damn Yeti 50, you got Mad City,
Yes.
you got your 100 miler in Texas. Long term, what are some of your big goals that you have?
Phew. That's tough. I just kind of have taken it race to race. I don't know. I think just, kind of see what each year brings, what opportunity brings. I would love to run Western States, I mean, who wouldn't in the ultra space? But I guess for me, I don't want that to be like my single sole goal, if it happens along the way. But I think really just to grow in the sport. Obviously I'll be 46 in May, so I feel grateful for the experiences. I feel grateful to still be able to work at my speed. So I think just see what I can really get better at. I would love to do more technical, but my life load right now just doesn't allow for that. But I think as much as I can get out there and test the waters, I've done some 50Ks over there, the Moonbow over in Kentucky, and
Mm-hmm.
those are like a 6 hour 50K, but those are great for me. I think those are a great anything that's close that I can get on and go do. But long term, I think just be a consistent, solid ultra runner. Obviously, I would love to improve. I mean, I think there's a lot of growing in this sport. There's a lot to learn. But yeah, I think just be able to run as long as I can, race as long as I can. Oh,
I don't think it don't seem like that's gonna be a problem for you. Just real quick
yeah.
though, the Yamacraw 50K is
Yeah.
in Blue Heron, Kentucky. I don't know how close that is
Okay.
to that
Okay.
that's a pretty. I mean, it was my first 50K,
Yeah.
and it's technical, but
Okay.
it's not like killer technical.
Yeah.
Might be one you can look at.
Be good. Yeah, I would love to. Well, you send me any local ones around us because sometimes you just don't know, right? It's overwhelming when you get on to look and because I would love to know about some more. And also, be red team members. We didn't mention that
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
Ultra.
Yeah, I didn't
That,
even.
yeah,
It,
that's
it,
like another little family we have, right? I
right.
love our red team family.
Sure. I mean, you're the third one in a row. I mean, I interviewed a guy who was a thru hiker and an ultra runner this past week, and of
Yeah.
course, I did Peter, who
Yeah.
you know, it was funny. I saw a video of him on YouTube, right? And this
Yeah.
is before I knew he was a red team member. This was
Okay.
like and it was his Hurt 100 video
Yes.
he had did with you know, that Aravaipa did for him. And so I watched it while I was running on a treadmill, and I was
Yeah.
like, holy cow, this guy is bad to the bone. And then like he was like, and then he
Yeah.
agreed to interview with me. I was like, holy cow. And then I started looking at all the stuff he did, and I was like, I didn't even know where to start to talk to him. It was literally the longest interview I've done to date, because like
Yes.
it just, his list is like this long, right? And you're just going through and you're just like, he's ran in Europe and
Incredible.
ran over here. And it's like, I mean,
Yeah.
and he just got into
Yeah.
Western States. So he's doing Western States this year. So that's exciting for him.
Yeah. That was a great podcast, by the way. I did watch that. You know what? He's a neat guy. Well, it was one of my DNFs out at Javelina. He was in costume, carrying a microphone. He is the nicest guy. But you know, I mean, isn't it amazing his story? I mean, it's incredible. Yeah. I mean,
And
Kurt.
yeah, I mean,
I,
and
yeah.
I think what's crazy though, too, is it's just like, he's gotten better as he's gotten older, it seems, right? It's like he's fine-tuned things, kind of similar to, to your story is,
Yeah.
your progression is you've gotten smarter and you've gotten better as you've gotten older. So
Yeah.
age doesn't mean anything,
That's exactly right. Just a
because
number.
because because you interviewed with the adventure jogger, right? And
Yes.
Ryan
Yes.
and Jeff Stafford is, how old is Jeff? Jeff ran the marathon yesterday in like under 7 hours at Savage Golf.
Wow. See? That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yes. So, but
Yeah.
it is, but absolutely is so cool. But I'm sure that I'll see you at some of these
Yeah.
Yeti races, because I'm
Yeah.
sure I'll go back to the damn Yeti next year. I don't think I don't know if I'll do the 100 over there for a minute. That one's kind of,
Well, you let me know and I'll help crew you or do whatever I can. I mean, I'm literally, my house is, I'm just a little over a mile from the Abingdon trailhead. So I literally, like, I run from my driveway every day. I mean, this is kind of my stomping ground. So anything I can do to help you, I
well,
mean,
that's awesome. I appreciate
yeah,
that. Yeah, when
yeah,
when we when we stayed up there for the race, we stayed in Abington. And
yeah.
heck, we may stayed in a house that was close to where you were, because we were literally, you could hop in the car and drive down a street and the trailhead was right
Right
there.
there. That's
It
awesome.
was it was an
See,
Airbnb. It was so
yeah,
cool.
that's cool. Yeah, and then I'll come run with you in the Smokies if I get into Western States. That's probably the best stomping grounds practice for that, right?
Let me tell you, it is some of I have to tell you, there's very few places that I go that just mean a lot to me. But I can tell you, going up to Mount LeConte
Hmm.
is probably my favorite run ever. Me and was it one, two, three? There was four of us a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We parked in downtown Gatlinburg at the aquarium, and we
Okay.
ran from downtown Gatlinburg all the way up to the top of Mount LeConte. And it was better than any race I've ever ran in. It was the best experience ever.
That's
Just amazing. It's so beautiful up there. So
yeah.
have you ever been up there to Mount LeConte?
I've been there to run. I mean, I've been in the area. My daughter was in the gymnastics scene for a while, so she would do meets there in Gatlinburg. But I've never got to run up there. I've got a buddy that's where he did a lot of his Western States training, and that's what he says. It's epic. He loves it up
Oh,
there.
it's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Nothing like it. Well, we'll definitely have to. I'll definitely have to hit you up. Of course, you'll have to slum it a little bit running with the.
That's
I'm
okay.
I'm the same age as you, but I'm
Yes.
significantly slower than you. Okay, I'm like, I'm the back, you're the front, so it's
That's okay. We're in it together, right?
that's right. Well, guys, that is going to be it for this week's episode with Amy. Thank you, Amy, for taking out the time to talk to me. I know how busy it is.
Yeah. Thank you
Life
for
is just
having me. And
crazy
thank you
busy.
for doing your podcast. I think it's awesome. Like, it helps our community know all of us better, right?
Oh, sure, sure. And
Yeah.
and everybody has a story, and everybody has something that they can offer that somebody else might hear and might think, wow, I've gone through that too. And and it might help them push a little bit further along. So but I really do appreciate it. And you know, that is going to be it for this week's episode. As always, there will be a video version and an audio version. I have officially moved over to audio. So many people have wanted audio. There's not a ton of stuff on the audio yet because I've only done like the last 3 or 4. However, Amy's will be on audio. It'll be on video. And so you can pick your format to watch us on. Again, the podcast is on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google, all of them. So that is it for this week. And as always, I will see you on the trail.